I'm Julia, and I'm here with Melissa, Chrissy, and Tracy. We are going to talk today about raising kids that aren't biologically ours or yours with mental health challenges. Because kids, I don't know if you guys know, or, you have kids that are yours and kids that aren't, grandkids, nieces, nephews, stepkids. I have adopted kids, and even kids that are like in limbo. They have additional problems that come along with just their mental health challenges. I have my own 17-year-old is not technically my child. She's not even adopted. She's just I'm her guardian, and dealing with the trauma that she's had to go through, that didn't come from our family, is been something that we deal with on the daily. I don't know about you guys, but we trauma that we have no idea what's happening, or what's they're going through, or what's going through their mind. And it affects their decisions, it affects their moods. We really have trouble here with that. And sometimes they even tell you, you don't know what I'm going through. If you have an older kid, definitely.
And that's fair, because we don't. I mean, I don't know what they're going through. And I don't think society as a whole realizes what these childhood, aversions, like things that they've been through, affect them long term. I mean, I'm raising my two nephews, and we got them out of their situation pretty early. They were like just under a year old and almost 2, and they still have some, mental health problems or diagnoses and stuff that have stemmed from that. Like my older nephew has PTSD.
Right.
Just from, the being ripped from his parents, and then, his father passing away and being placed. I mean, at the time I was a literal stranger. Granted, he was 2 years old, but at the same time, like, that was very hard for him. And I don't think society realizes, like, they think, oh, well, you got him young, it's fine. It's like, no, there's some long-term effects there. It doesn't matter. They still went through something traumatic, whether they were little or not. And maybe they don't remember it, but the way that their brain was wired did remember it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And my son is my biological son, even though I call him my son. We don't use the word stepchild, stepmother, all that. We've been along in this journey for long enough. And there was a lot of trauma that came with his mother kind of just abandoning him, even though she was in the picture, but she just up and left and, went to a different state and was like, okay, I'll see you later. And that caused a lot of that abandonment issues, and the fear. And so that was when he was young. So we had to process a lot of information when he was young. So I totally understand what you guys are both saying.
Yeah. These kids, and we deal with this. We have, like I said, we have an adopted 5-year-old, who is biologically related to me, but kind of distantly. And then, my older daughter, who has no connection whatsoever biologically, but we've been in her life since she was 1.5. But they both have this, anger and sadness about them, missing these people who should have been in their lives. And that really affects their mental health. Their, both my older daughter and even the little one, and she has not been with her biological parents since she was under 1 year old. She still talks, she'll say things like, you're not my mommy, or, I want to go back to my other house. And I know that that's going to manifest even kind of deeper and bigger as she grows up. And that we really struggle with that here. We just, try to, agree with them. Of course, you're sad that you don't have mommy here or your mom, or, and I'm sorry you're disappointed that your mom didn't call you for your birthday, or, we just try to support them. I don't know if you guys have any tips, or anything that you do specifically for your kids or did for your kids.
I feel like for our family and my own peace of mind, being able to really think about the things that have happened are out of our control. They didn't happen in our home. Or if they did, we can only control what's going on right now. And giving them that love, that support, and making your place and you as a person that you are a loving, caring adult, supportive to them. As much as we wish we could take things away and that they just didn't even ever have to deal with these things, just knowing we can only control what happens in our home, and do the best that we can, and just always be that person that's like, you're right, I don't know, but I'm here. Talk with me about it. I think that was a saving grace for myself with our family, was we can't control what other people have done or continue to do, and just being that person that's, I'm with you. I'll go to the doctor with you. I'll talk with you. I'll let you be mad, sad, whatever it is,
Right.
Yeah, I was going to say, acknowledging that disappointment, that anger, because that's going to come with the course.
Definitely.
Feelings.
Yeah.
And I wish that, and having a lot of resentment. And, I think that acknowledging that, validating their feelings, because there's nothing worse than not even getting that validation with the person that is a part of your life.
Right.
Then you're going to let down even more. But the people that are in your life now, the ones that are showing you that they love you and they care for you and you're part of their life, we're going to acknowledge that, and we're going to acknowledge that the pain that you're feeling is absolutely okay.
Right. And I do find that type of thing, that acknowledgement does at least bring you a little closer, and it gives you, a little bit more credibility and trust with these kids. Because we definitely deal with that here, is, trust thing. They kind of, their distrust of others manifests onto, in our household, it's definitely me, like the mother figure. So we're, when we go through this stuff and we are there for them, it definitely gets us closer. The funniest thing is, like, when my oldest daughter goes through any type of mental health challenge, like, it's like whenever we're at the hospital or at the doctor's, that's like when we bond the most. I'm always saying, I'd rather just go on a holiday to the beach. Do we have to, do this? Do we have to go to the hospital to bond? Let's just go to the beach, but we are the closest, when we're going through those things. It's very funny.
And those are wonderful opportunities for you to be that person they can count on. You do what you say you're going to do. You are that loving person. And unfortunately, it is at those times where just hands down, they know who they can count on, and that's okay. And I mean, as the adult mother figure, it makes me feel so good, or even my husband, that as they have grown into adulthood, that they know they can come back to us. Like, we're that solid person for them. They can talk about it. They can share, that we are there for them. And I think like everything you do, sometimes while you're doing it, you don't see any kind of acknowledgement, reward, or anything. And you're not doing it for those reasons. You're just that kind of parent and that loving person. But I can promise you, as they age and they get older, they really see you through adult eyes, and they're grateful for what you've done and the person that you are. That payoff absolutely comes, even though that's not what you're looking for right now. It does come.
Could you give me a date for that? I'd like to write that on the calendar.
They hit
Some
20, 23, they're like eyes open, and a lot of stuff when they have trauma from other parents, their biological parent possibly, it takes until they're an adult for them to realize the role that that person actually held in their life, that they were the ones responsible for their behavior, not the child. I think our children feel like, if I would have just done this or been better at this, like they put so much on themselves. And it's kind of freeing when they get to become adults and they realize that relationship was on that adult. It wasn't on the child,
Right.
And that's a big thing for them when they understand that,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and you're as the stand-in parent, the parent that's there. You are breaking that cycle, and they do finally, get it at some point that now they can be better or be more than their where they came from. And that's all we want for any of our kids, is for them to feel like they can be better than where they came from.
I think whenever you talk about acknowledging it, that they're going through something, there are things for our children that they have a response to: a smell, a sound, a season, so many things, and they don't even know why they're behaving the way they're behaving. They don't know how to articulate that, because maybe it's something that just was traumatizing at a certain age, and they don't know why, this smell or sound or whatever. So always acknowledging that, for them.
Right. How do you guys deal with other people's opinions when you have this child that is having mental health challenges? Just like I have a biological daughter that has mental health challenges, but I have people in my peripheral circle that will say to me about the older one, maybe you should just send her back, or maybe you should just give up on her.
Oh,
Yeah. I mean, I
That would
guess
be a
nobody
different
deals
kind
with
of
that. Nobody else
conversation
deals
at
with
that
that.
point.
Yeah.
there
Trash. Right.
is where I would put those opinions.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would bring a lot up in that
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah. Or, this, I've had people say, that child's too much for your family. Maybe they should, I don't know. It's hard for me. Like, I've always, I stand up for her and myself, and I'm, she's no different than any of my other kids, but you get
I was
that
going
look.
to say,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
any child can have difficulty.
Sure.
It doesn't matter whether they are yours or not. If the child is having a difficult time, they
Right.
are struggling. And so it's reminding the people in our lives, it doesn't matter of the title that they hold, that you're there supporting this child
Right.
in what they're going through right now. And that's the only thing that matters.
Yes. I'm so sorry that anybody's ever said anything or made you feel any kind of way. And just be grateful that people that say things like that are not the ones taking care of children, that they're not the
Yeah,
ones, because
exactly.
that's a sad way to treat a child, anybody's child.
That's a very, very good point, Melissa. I hate to hear negative things like that. Like with the taking the voice, isn't that too much for you? Why would you do that? It's like, well, why wouldn't I do that? And it's
Right.
fine. We're fine over
Exactly.
here. Don't worry about us. We're okay.
Sure.
Like,
Sure. Yeah.
but it's like, keep your opinion to yourself.
Yeah.
I just piggybacking off of what you said, Julia, I have heard, some negative things from people in my inner workings, like when the little one always tells me I'm not his mom, and I'm like, well, and they're like, well, don't you get mad? And it's like, well, no, because I'm not actually his mom. I'm actually his
Right.
aunt. And if he wants to call me aunt, that's totally fine. He can call me my first name. It doesn't matter. It doesn't change the love I have or the care that he'll be receiving or the way that he's treated in my house. Like, it doesn't matter. It's just a
Right.
label. It's fine. But like, I hate to hear that. It's like, no, I'm not going to be mad at a 6-year-old for speaking the truth.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I have the same with my young one, and she has a lot of questions. She's really intuitive. And she wants to know things, she already wants to know where her biological mom is and what she looks like and why she can't visit her. And, I try to explain as best as I can. And then she'll say something like, I try to, her mother dealt with substance abuse and substance use. And I'll say, she had trouble with other people's medications, and she'd be like, well, am I going to have trouble with medications? And I'm like, I don't know, but, we'll deal with that when we get to it. But, I've always been honest, and, I don't give too much stock to people who say things like that. But,
Good.
they are in our families.
Mhm.
What about, like, talking about things, where these kids get their genes and stuff from, and what about their not being able to anticipate what kind of mental health challenges will pop up with these kids? Because they're not exactly related to us sometimes, and you don't know what's going to happen. I guess that, to me, it's the same as any other biological child, maybe, but sometimes they have, hold on one second, guys. These kids have challenges that come out of nowhere, or I'm dealing with a couple families right now that have kids that had challenges that they're fine, and then all of a sudden they are very, very angry and very mean, and you guys have any experience?
Well, because I think sometimes we don't know where that anger comes from. And that can happen with even our biological children, that they can be perfectly fine, for how long, and then until something happens, and I think that sometimes with the children that experience that trauma, and the abandonment, all of the things that we've talked about today, it does take some time to, possibly develop some of those feelings later on, when they're in school and they see other kids that might have families coming to them, and they start questioning things. And two, some of the diagnoses and the disorders that children have, they don't come right away. That anxiety, that ADHD, is not something that has, okay, by 5 years old or 6 years old, you're immediately going to start exhibiting those things. And it's not that way. It's not textbook.
Yeah.
Our kids, our, extended children, it can happen at any point because we don't know what went on sometimes in their mind. Like somebody said earlier, we don't know how they're taking it, how they're interpreting that into their own mind, And so always just talking about being accepting of the mental health, accepting what is happening, you know. And I think that that's one great thing about all of us parents that are sitting here today, is that we are accepting of the mental health challenges that all of our kids, you know, have been enduring.
And none of them come with a handbook, whether you
Nope.
gave birth to them or God gave them to you, you know, whichever way, you know, not that he don't give you the ones you birth, I'm saying that wrong, but
We got it.
the idea of like parenting is just like the title of our podcast. This was not what I was expecting. Even when we
Yep.
know like there's a certain diagnosis in our family, maybe it's even like a medical thing, like all the women have thyroid issues, you know. So we're just waiting for our 13, 15-year-old to start having thyroid issues, and then it, you know, it never happens. Or it does happen. It's like, do what you're doing and loving them and caring for them and getting them support if they need outside support, need the pediatrician, need a therapist, whatever it is that they need, you know.
I do think that, like, Julia, like, I mean, I think that if you were talking, like, if a parent, you know, had a history of bipolar or a history of, you know, significant traits, you know, you obviously can at that point understand that this is genetic and something that can occur in that child's life. So that could be something that you have on in your toolbox, and you say, you know, I'm going to have this, being aware of it and being able to watch for those signs and being able to educate the child and educate the providers that are, you know, involved in their family, to be able to say that this is, you know, a character, a trait from the parent. And so we do want to take that measure to protect ahead of time. So it's not like we don't like just wait for it to happen. We can
Right.
just take those measures and put them into our toolbox and understand that that could possibly happen to the child as well.
Yeah. So we were talking about, you know, getting, talking to providers and, you know, getting these kids the help they need. Have any of you ever had to deal with like red tape in getting them treatment? We have trouble sometimes because I was very informally involved with my oldest child's life for a long time. Like, her bio mom just let us have her, you know, so we didn't have any official paperwork, you know, but she needed treatment, and we would have trouble sometimes. Have any of you had trouble, you know, getting treatment for kids that weren't yours, that aren't yours biologically?
Yes. I have permanent legal guardianship of my two nephews now, but even still, my sister retained her parental rights. And it wasn't mental health, but it was dental treatment. I wasn't able to sign for him to be under anesthesia because it wasn't medically necessary. They considered it like, I don't know, not necessary because they could do it under laughing gas. They would just have to do it over a set amount of time. So we had to see the dentist 6 times to fix something that could have been fixed in one visit if I could have signed for the elective anesthesia versus, since it wasn't an emergency situation. And
Yeah.
the same child had to be taken by ambulance. He had a seizure from a fever over the winter, and he was going to have to be life flighted, and they almost didn't let me on the life flight because I didn't have my custody paperwork with me. And because I wasn't listed as his parent in their system, it was his biological mother, because he was born in that hospital and nobody could get a hold of her. They almost didn't let me go with him. So thankfully he didn't have to be life flighted and he got to stay. But that almost caused us a problem then too, which is why now I'm trying to actually adopt them, which wasn't really ever supposed to happen, but now it's going to happen, only because it just keeps becoming a problem. And that's really hard. Like, I was already like beside myself. I mean, my kid had turned blue in my arms. We
Right.
rode in
Right.
It was like a terrifying experience, and them to be like, well, you don't have custody paperwork, so you're not going to get on the helicopter. It's like, I'm sorry that I left in the ambulance holding my sick child. I apologize. I didn't grab the file folder out of the safe on my way out the door.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, he's screaming for mom. Like, can't you just trust that I'm his mom?
Right. Exactly.
I think too, I mean, I think it's maybe it's just how the society works right now, because I think that there's so many things put in place right now. I think I had the same kind of situation happen with Chrissy, when I took my granddaughter to the dentist. I mean, it was not any procedure that she had to be put down under. It was literally just an exam. And they canceled the appointment because I was not on record as being able to take her to the appointment. I'm like, I'm just taking her to her appointment. She's not, and they're like, nope, can't do it. Canceled the appointment. And now she had to miss another day of school because I didn't, so we had to get the paperwork signed. And no matter how many times even my daughter signs that paperwork for me to be able to do these things for my grandchildren, even when I try to do it, they still say, well, no, I need mom's permission, even though we've signed it a bunch of times. So it's not only just our kids that are not like biological ours. I just think that we've got so many things set in place right now that make it even more difficult for anybody to help out a family.
Right. I agree with that.
Frustrating.
Yeah.
It's so frustrating.
And, for you, Chrissy, I don't know if you do this, but I carry my custody paperwork in my phone. I have it like a document saved in my phone. That has helped me at all kinds of different facilities for my oldest. At the ER,
Good idea.
in the doctor's office. Yeah, I carry my custody papers with me at all times.
That's a very smart thing. I didn't think of that. I don't really know why I didn't think of that, but that's a very smart thing. Just to even put it on like one,
especially for emergencies,
so that you could grab
like that.
Yeah, I don't think in that situation I would have been able to even.
Sure. Yeah. No.
About me enough, but no, just to have it, that's very smart. I didn't think to do that. It caught me off guard. It's like they've been with me for 7 years. Like, I feel like I should be on everything at this time. But even registering for school, we had to have an outside notary come in and notarize like paperwork in addition to the custody paperwork, saying like that I was allowed to enroll them in school and things of that nature.
It's so funny how some places like the dentist are all over that. And then some places, like I took one of my children, or took the oldest to a mental health ER, and they didn't even ask for the custody paperwork. It's like, it's very hit or miss. I enrolled my oldest in school at a Pennsylvania school district with just a note from her mom, her biological mom. I mean, it's so funny how it's just
super hit or miss. Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
And sometimes they wouldn't even ask if you didn't point it out. They just would assume that you were a mom, write your name down as mom. And probably some of the time it's my own fault for being like, okay, here's all of this stuff.
So being too honest.
Yeah. Keep my mouth shut and pretend to be mom, and then maybe nobody would ever say anything. Who knows? But it's rough. I feel bad sometimes just for them having to explain. I know that they have trouble sometimes explaining why my last name doesn't match and why, dad's last name doesn't match. And that to them is weird. My 8-year-old nephew is really adamant about wanting our last name, which is why like the adoption thing we took it off the shelf, because he plays football and my husband is his coach and he wants our last name on his jersey and he wants them to announce our last name. So I get it. I just never wanted to take away from them like their identity. So I wanted to make sure that they wanted, because their mom's still around. I wanted to make sure that they wanted me as mom, because you try to explain to a 7-year-old, like, once we do this on paper, I am your mother. Like, there's no more weird gray area. Like, I'm mom after this. Like, are you sure that's what you want? And
my daughter's 32 years old, and still to this day has said, because my husband's not her biological father, and she was like, I'm not part of that family because I don't have your last name. I've never had your last name. And it's so heartbreaking because that's what she wanted when she was little. She just wanted to have that adoption by my husband to make it official that she was his. And so I get that, Chrissy, that, they want that last name as feeling that connection, that a whole, I guess. And it can be something that is a lingering feeling from what I've been told by my daughter, that feeling that maybe they're not.
Yeah,
I don't know.
we get that too. We get that here. And, we go back and forth, with my older daughter, she has days where, she is saying that, she is changing her name. As soon as she turns 18, she's going to be, our last name. And then there are days like she is in the mental and in a crisis, mental health crisis, and she'll say, "You don't even know who I am." So we go back and forth. So hopefully, one day she will want to have our name, but she has a lot of guilt, and I don't know how to alleviate that guilt, from her, because she's feels very, she has an allegiance to her bio mom, and she really struggles with that. That's a thing we definitely deal with here.
I get that. I do, because it didn't matter how many times our son was let down, disappointed, things not working out. She could never do any wrong, but that is his mom, and I understand that. We just had to keep on helping him to feel loved and supporting and picking up those pieces of the kind of shattered disappointment at the moment. But I get it. It didn't matter what they did or do. They are going to feel like, you don't understand. That's my parent. That's my mom. That's my dad. And they can't do any wrong.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's hard. And all of this talk, I was going to say it earlier, it doesn't make it any easier on any of us as adults, as a person. It's not an easy job. It is a very difficult situation that all of us have been in. And so I do, want to recognize that in our audience, that we're not by any means saying that this is not a difficult situation. We love it. I wouldn't change it for the world, but it is not always easy either.
Yeah. And it's heartbreaking. You put yourself out there and you expect that love and understanding to be reciprocated. And there's days they're not. And it's actually not anything to do with you. It's their own feelings and their own trauma and things that have happened. For my boys, from day one, I told them, I love you. I love you. And they wouldn't say anything back. And it took a long time for them to start saying it. And I would just say it. I just never stop saying it, as long as they knew I loved them, that's all I needed. But the first time they say it back is just like, just fills your heart. But that's why I say keep being you. I know it's not easy. You put so much love and effort towards them. And, it can be brutal at times, their honesty and their even being upset with another parent and giving you like some slap back about it. It's like you got to take one on the chin again and again, but just hang in there, they're worth it. They're 100% worth it.
Yeah. As the famous Wanda Sykes always said, kids, they're a lot of work. And then she would look down and say, but they're worth it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm glad to know that I'm not alone, and I know our people out there listening are feeling alone, and there are people that are going through the same thing, and we are ultimately healing the trauma these kids have by nurturing them, and just they're our kids. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who their biological parents might be. If you're in it with them, you're their mom, you're their dad, and it's all you can do is just be their mom or dad, just like you would do with any of your own children. So
Just continue to show support.
yep.
And surround yourself with other parents that get it. Any negativity, just don't have time for it. Surround yourself with parents that tell you you're doing a great job. You're doing it. Might be messy, but you're doing it.
Right.
Absolutely. Might be messy.
When is parenting not messy?
Exactly. That's another
If I ever get there, I'll let you know.
Physically and mentally messy.
Yeah.
Well, ladies, it was nice talking to you today. I am glad that you guys could share this with me and with everybody who's listening, and we will be back with another topic on another day.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you, Julia.
Bye.
Bye.